This is an iPad Air 1 and we're doing a battery replacement. This one will not take a charge. You plug it in, it shows the charging icon just forever, and it never does boot up. So we're going to put a new battery in it. I have it on my heating plate at 60 degrees Celsius, which is plenty hot to get the screen off. You'll see on the internet some other people recommend 90 degrees Celsius, and in my experience that's just too hot. I did damage a LCD with it that hot before. It left a splotchy pattern on the LCD that wouldn't go away, and I had to replace the LCD on my dime. Couldn't charge the customer for that, of course. So 60 degrees is hot enough. It's not so hot that it'll damage the battery or do any damage to the inner components, but it will get the housing hot enough to soften the adhesive, and that's all we want, is it to be soft enough to be able to get this screen off without cracking it, because the screen's good and I want to reuse it. So to make sure I don't get spots on the inside, I want it to be really clean both inside and out. Helps you notice if you've got something on the inside. If the outside's dirty, you might not notice, and you'll seal it up and clean the outside just to realize that, uh-oh, you got a fingerprint or a smudge or something on the inside. So try to keep it clean throughout. And then there's ways I'll show you before we close it up that I can clean the inside. It's got some sort of mark here. I can't tell if that's a scratch. I'm going to try some alcohol. Alright, it came off with alcohol. Those are scratches right there. Those won't come off. All right. This has flex cables that attach on this side. So to open the iPad Air 1, I usually turn it upside down so the home button's over here so that I can open it this way, because I'm right-handed. I want to start on this side and get this side free first. When it's ready, the heat goes out to about right here, so on this direction it gets the whole thing heated. Alright, so now I'm going to start with my Isesimo tool, and then once I have entry, I'm going to switch to a spudger with a plastic tip. Less chance of causing damage. And I'll start over here in this corner with a suction cup. It's not hot enough yet. Again, it's upside down. There's the home button over there. See if it's hot enough yet. Still not pulling up. There we go. So I've got entry. See how I'm twisting it? That will keep me from cracking it, hopefully. The idea is to put the fulcrum closer to the part where it's glued down. Wow, it seems much more stuck on this side. Alright, so now I can turn this off, set it aside. Begin work on taking off the screen and the LCD. So I've got a 000 Phillips head screwdriver to work on the four corners. There's a screw holding it in on each corner underneath this tape. I use magnets to help me track screws, keep them in order. Now try not to touch the inside of that glass the whole time you got it open. You're going to want to set that screen somewhere, probably on the inside facing down, so that it won't get anything on it. Hello. All right, now before I disconnect anything, this is where the battery connects. This is where the LCD and the outer glass connect under this plate. I want to disconnect the battery before anything else. So you can take out this screw right here. Remember what screw this goes to. Set that on your magnet so you know where it is. And I like to use these red plastic razor blades to pry underneath the logic board. It is stuck down with adhesive. You can pry up and then slide it over. So that disconnects the battery. So now it's safe to do other things, take off other components. I'm going to use another magnet to track these three screws. So now I know which order those go into. I'll set this aside. I'm going to use my fingernail to pull up, and that'll undo the LCD connector right there. I'm going to set this somewhere safe. I'm going to be careful not to damage that. And so now, battery's disconnected. I can use my fingernails to pull up on the digitizer connections, and my tweezers to get the tape off of the home button connection and disconnect it. I'm going to put that right there, flip up the ZIF connector, and then I can pull it out. So now I want to be careful with this screen because I'm going to reuse it. Get my suction cup off of it. I'm gonna put it somewhere out of the way. Now we're doing a battery swap. So I'm gonna take this battery out, and to do that, I'm gonna use my heating pad again. So I'm gonna bring it back over, turn it back on. It's automatically set to 60. It always goes to that temperature. Now you don't want to use metal tools on the inside, especially on the battery. If I was using metal, I could puncture it, and if I did that, I would have a fireworks show. Lots of smoke and flame shooting out of this thing, and that's not a good deal. So this is plastic. It's got a beveled edge going that direction, so I'll be able to get underneath it once the adhesives are soft and pull that out of there. Now that I've got both the glass and the LCD disconnected, it is safe to go ahead and pull out my battery disconnector. The battery does have a part that goes underneath the logic board, so I want to be really careful here. And I'm going to start on this side, getting the battery up from the housing, trying not to damage any of these cables here or any of this work up here. But I'm going to want to pry this up like that. Can you see underneath there? So that I can lift over the little connector here and out from under it. Starting to get warm. That one's up. So now the battery's free from the housing, but it's still on a peg, which holds it into spot there. So I'm going to use my spudger to lift up on the logic board so I can lift it out. And there we go. Bad battery out. Now there's still some sticky left, and that may be sufficient to hold my battery in place. We'll see here in a second. It's got adhesives already installed on it, so once I pulled this off, I don't need to add my own sticky. But see the little hole there? There's a peg that I've got to go on top of, but under here. So, use my spudger again to lift the logic board up. Slide that in. I believe that's in place. Turn off my heating pad and get it out of the way. So I can see the screw hole line up, so I believe it's in spot. Now, before I'm ready to seal it up, I want to test just to make sure that I do have the battery in the right position. So I'm just going to put temporarily, oh yeah, before I do this, I don't want to connect that while there's still juice to it. So I'm going to do like I did in the beginning and put that there to disconnect the battery so that it's safe to plug things in. Now I'm going to put in the LCD just so I can see if it lights up when I turn it on. This is the magnet where I have my battery screw. So I'm going to get my battery screw ready. And then connect the battery again. Now that screw will squeeze the logic board down onto the prongs so that it makes connection. And now I'm going to carefully set this down and see if it boots up. Okay, so that's a great sign. That means that the battery works and it's in position. And so now I'll need to take off the LCD by first disconnecting the battery with this. And then I'm going to clean all the old adhesive up so that my new adhesive will stick. You don't want to leave that old adhesive or it's going to cause the new adhesive not to stick well. And then you'll have a problem with the screen coming up later and the customer will be upset. So let's go ahead and disconnect the battery again. So this battery is almost fully charged, came that way. So I'm going to disconnect the battery, set my screw aside where I know where it is. Now it's safe to disconnect the LCD. Set that aside. And I have found the best way to clean that adhesive is to use this. Goo Gone does a good job of cleaning it up. So off camera I'm going to be spraying some on a paper towel that I folded. And I want to start getting it damp, wet the glue all the way around so that I can scrape it with a tool. You want to be careful not to get it on the lens of the camera. It'll make it look oily and give it a film, and it'll mess up all the photos. So if you do, that's okay. You can use alcohol and a cotton swab to clean that off, but it's best to try to avoid it altogether. So now I'm going to use my metal scrape tool, and I'm going to be careful. If I have a slip and I puncture this battery, we're going to have a fireworks show and a big problem on our hands. So I have to be really careful and concentrate on what I'm doing. But all this old glue, you want to get that out of there. So now I can go back over it with my Goo Gone. I'm using my fingernail to get it down in that corner. I want it up against the metal as best I can. Clean all that out. It's nice and smooth and ready for some new adhesive. Alright, now it's pretty clean. I want to hit it with a dry paper towel. Get all that adhesive remover, the Goo Gone. I want to get that up so that my new adhesive will stick well. You need to use your fingernail to get it into the corner. Off the battery, if there's any spillage or drops or fingerprints, you want to clean it up. I don't want anybody coming in doing a repair after me and finding a bunch of adhesives and fingerprints that are left. I'll find that when I come into an iPad that's been repaired at another shop. Quite often you'll find messes inside there and it just looks tacky and unprofessional, and I don't want anybody seeing anything like that after working on an iPad that I worked on, or a phone, or any device. So it's important to make it look good, inside and out. So I'm gonna blow some air in there, make sure there's nothing left, any shards of glass or glue chunks or anything else. Alright, now some screens come with Tessa tape already installed on them, but most don't. They have a cheap adhesive that does not work very well and you can't really trust it. So you need to check before you install it. If your new screen has wax paper that says Tessa in red letters, then you know it's a good adhesive and you're okay sticking with the factory adhesive. But in this case, it's a battery replacement. I'm reusing the screen. The screen has old adhesive on it. But I'm not going to trust it. I'm going to add a little bit more of mine. This adhesive is still good. I'm going to reuse some of that. But I'm going to put some of my own here, and here, and maybe a little bit on the sides. And I use this. It should say Tessa on it. This stuff is really good. It's not going to come up if you use this. The screen will stay down like it's supposed to. There it is. This piece here. Now, I don't want to put it on top of the antennas. You stick it down on top of the antenna, the next guy to open it could open it and pull an antenna up and rip it and have to replace that, and it might be you that does another screen repair or a new battery or something like that. So you want to put it in between them but not on them. Now I've also got some 2mm wide testa tape that I'm going to use on these sides here. Alright, with that little bit that I added and the adhesive that's already on the screen, it's going to stick pretty well. I'm going to set this aside. I have got a black piece of poster board that I'm going to set down and put the screen on top of it. I'm going to start by cleaning the outside with my microfiber rag to make sure that I'm not going to close it up with any spots on the inside. I'm going to move it around. See, there's something on the inside there. Actually, that's on the cardboard. So since I didn't touch it anywhere, it looks pretty clean. I do see something. Alright, that's pretty clean. The black helps me see it. Spots will look white. If I just do it like this, it's really hard to tell. So now, my battery's still disconnected. I want this to sit at the same height as the iPad. So I've got an old iPhone 5 that I use to set my screen on top of. Gives me the right height. And to keep from making marks on it, I'm going to hold it with this rag and plug it back in. Lift the ZIF connector and plug in the home button again. And then I'm going to replace the tape that goes over it. And the tape that covers up. Well, it's really stuck. There we go. That's not wanting to stick again. Alright, now I'm going to stick these back down. So now that those are stuck down, I can put the LCD back on. And with the LCD back, I can get my screws that hold it into place. So now that I've got everything plugged in, I can disconnect the battery and put the screw in that holds that down. Careful of the home button flex cable, and lay this back into place. I can take my 4 screws and put them back in the corners. Lifting up the tape here in these 2 top corners. Low. Robocalls, I get them all day long. I don't take those. Alright, so now I want to clean this LCD with my microfiber rag. If you've got any adhesive on that rag, it's likely to spread around, so it's best to use a good clean rag if you can. See that adhesive right there smeared? I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol. Clean that off. Now, it's time to pull up the wax paper off the back of your testa tape. Get ready to stick the screen down. This is a little tricky getting this back one. place in this side over here. And you want to be careful of this flex cable here. You need to tuck it in so that it doesn't get pinched between the housing and the glass. And then squeeze all the way around. And turn it back on. Now, those adhesives will stick well, but I do like to put it in clamps for a little bit until the customer can get here to pick it up, just so that the pressure is on it and it's making contact all the way around and it gets best seal. All right, there you go. That's a battery replacement on an iPad Air 1. It's ready to go. So now I'm going to contact the customer and let him know he may pick it up.